The path of the Sigma male is a compelling and often misunderstood journey. It is not merely a personality type, but a chosen philosophy of life, characterized by a profound commitment to self-reliance, internal validation, and a deliberate existence outside the traditional hierarchies of society. The Sigma male builds his kingdom within, finding strength in solitude, clarity in silence, and power in a quiet, unyielding competence. This very independence, this fortress of self, is his greatest asset. However, the same walls that protect him can, if left unexamined, become the bars of a prison of his own making. The strengths that define him can, when pushed to an extreme, curdle into critical vulnerabilities. This is not a call to conform, to dilute one's essence, or to seek the validation of the herd. It is instead a call for strategic awareness, a masterclass in reinforcing one's foundations to ensure the sovereignty sought is not a fleeting autonomy, but a lasting, resilient empire of the self. We will explore the 8 most insidious and costly mistakes that can silently derail a Sigma male's trajectory, and crucially, the sophisticated corrections that transform potential failure into unshakable power. Mistake 1. The arrogance of absolute autonomy, the "I need no one" fallacy. The philosophical core and its perversion. At the heart of the Sigma archetype lies a powerful and admirable trait, a deep-seated independence. The Sigma male is not a follower. He draws a sense of worth and direction from internal compass, not from the applause or approval of an external crowd. He is the captain of his soul, navigating the tumultuous seas of life by his own stars. This self-sufficiency is a superpower in a world rife with groupthink and dependency. However, this strength contains a dangerous seed, the potential for arrogant isolation. The quiet confidence of "I can handle this myself" can slowly, imperceptibly, morph into hubristic declaration. "I alone am sufficient for all things." This is a fallacy of absolute autonomy, a belief that not only is one independent in spirit, but that one is an island, functionally and strategically complete without any external input or alliance. This mindset ignores the fundamental reality of our interconnected world. No individual, no matter how brilliant or capable, possesses all knowledge, all skills, or all perspectives. The complex, specialized nature of modern society means that legal frameworks, financial systems, technological infrastructures, and global markets are vast, intricate webs that no single person can master in their entirety. To believe otherwise is not strength. It is a form of myopia that mistakes the map for the territory. The Sigma who operates under this fallacy believes his internal map is complete, failing to see the canyons, shifting rivers, and uncharted territories that lie beyond his personal experience. The multifaceted cost of isolation. The price of this arrogance is paid in multiple currencies, each depleting the Sigma's potential for impact and freedom. The ceiling of complexity. Every individual, regardless of competence, will eventually encounter a problem that is too large, too complex, or too specialized for one person to solve. This could be a devastating legal battle with a powerful corporation, a critical health diagnosis requiring specialized expertise, or a business crisis involving multifaceted market forces. The isolated Sigma, facing this Goliath alone, is forced to rely on his sling and a handful of stones. He may possess immense courage, but without a network of allies, advisors, and specialists, he is engaging in a battle where the odds are structurally stacked against him. The result could be catastrophic failure, financial ruin, legal defeat, or the collapse of a life's work. Not for lack of will, but for a lack of strategic support. The opportunity blind spot. The world operates not solely on merit, but on an economy of trust and relationships. Pivotal opportunities, the career-defining promotion, the introduction to a crucial investor, the chance to acquire a rare asset, are often gate-kept. They flow through channels of human connection long before they are ever publicly advertised. The Sigma who refuses to build any bridges will remain on his own island, watching these opportunities float down the river of commerce and influence, accessible only to those who have built rafts and canals. His potential remains latent, his value unrecognized, not because it isn't real, but because it is not connected to the circuits through which value is exchanged and amplified. The stagnation perspective. Solitude can breed clarity, but isolation can breed stagnation. Without the friction of opposing viewpoints, the challenge of a dissenting voice, or the inspiration of a different expertise. One's own thinking can become an echo chamber. The Sigma's internal logic, however sound, can become rigid and brittle. He misses out on the chance to refine his ideas, to see blind spots in his plans, and to be exposed to novel approaches that only come from collaborating with minds different from his own. His growth is stunted, not for lack of internal effort, but for a lack of external stimulus. The correction from "I need no one" to "I curate my counsel." The solution is not to abandon independence, but to elevate it. It is to move from a default posture of isolation to a strategic practice of curation. The sovereign Sigma does not need everyone. He carefully selects who he needs. He shifts his identity from the lone wolf to the strategic sovereign who builds a small, elite, and trusted council. Mistake 2. The dismissal of the social labyrinth, underestimating tribal politics. The meritocratic ideal versus the tribal reality. The Sigma male often operates with a deeply ingrained meritocratic ideal. He believes that quality work, undeniable results, and pure competence should be the sole determinants of success and recognition. He assumes that if he focuses on his craft, hones his skills, and delivers exceptional value, the world will naturally recognize and reward him. This is a noble and logical worldview. It is also, in many contexts, a profound and costly naivete. While the Sigma is head down, focused on building a better mousetrap, the alpha personalities and social players are actively engaged in a different, equally ancient game, the game of tribal politics, perception management, and narrative control. The Sigma often views this game with disdain, considering it beneath him, a realm of petty gossip, empty flattery, and manipulative coalition building. He dismisses it as irrational and inefficient. This dismissal, however, is a critical error in perception. He fails to recognize that this game is not an optional pastime. It is the underlying operating system of most human hierarchies, from corporate offices to academic departments to social circles. By refusing to acknowledge the game, he does not opt out of it. He simply becomes an unwitting and often vulnerable piece on the board, unaware of the rules and the moves being made around him. The consequences of political naivete, the cost of remaining blind to the social labyrinth, is a slow, frustrating erosion of one's position and contributions. The invisible ceiling. The Sigma will consistently find himself passed over for promotions, leadership roles, and choice assignments. The positions will go to individuals who may be less technically competent but are more socially connected, who have built alliances, and who are seen as team players, which often translates to players of the political game. His hard work becomes a foundation upon which others build their visible successes. The theft of intellectual capital. Because the Sigma operates in isolation and does not proactively communicate his ideas, they are vulnerable to being co-opted. A more politically savvy colleague can hear a fragment of a brilliant idea, repackage it with social flair, and present the leadership as their own, without a network to vouch for his authorship, and without having managed a perception of his own contributions. The Sigma is left with no recourse but festering resentment, becoming the designated scapegoat. In any group, when failure occurs, the tribe seeks a sacrificial lamb to restore equilibrium. The individual with the least political capital, the one with no protective alliances, is the most vulnerable target. The Sigma, often operating on the periphery without a coalition to defend him, becomes the easiest and most logical candidate to blame, regardless of his actual culpability. His silence is interpreted as admission. His independence is seen as a lack of team spirit. The correction, the art of the observer, knowing the score without playing the game. The sovereign Sigma does not have to debase himself by engaging in the petty gossip or sycophantic behavior he despises. To do so would be to betray his core nature. The correction is not to become a player, but to become a masterful observer. He must learn to read the room with the same analytical precision he applies to his work. Mistake 3. That they should just notice fallacy, the inability to self-promote, the fallacy of the quiet corner. A natural extension of the Sigma's meritocratic worldview and his disdain for politics is a profound reluctance, even an inability, to engage in any form of self-promotion. He operates under what can be termed the "they should just notice" fallacy. He believes that if he does exceptional work, quietly and consistently, the right people, those who are intelligent and perceptive enough, will inevitably recognize his value. He expects the world to be a fair and observant judge. In reality, the world is a cacophonous, distracted marketplace. People are overwhelmed with information, burdened with their own priorities, and influenced by the loudest voices, not necessarily the most competent ones. The Sigma's quiet competence, while noble, is often invisible in this noisy environment. He fails to understand that in the absence of narrative he creates himself. Others will create a narrative for him, and it may not be an accurate or flattering one. His silence about his own achievements is not interpreted as humble strength, but as a lack of achievement, a lack of ambition, or a lack of communicative skill. The tangible price of invisibility. The cost of this fallacy is measured in lost opportunities, financial stagnation, and a deep, corrosive sense of resentment. Depressed market value. The Sigma's actual value, his skills, his output, his problem-solving ability, may be immense. However, his perceived value, and therefore his market value, his salary, his fees, his worth in the eyes of potential clients or partners, remains far lower. He watches, baffled and frustrated, as less capable but more vocal individuals command higher prices, secure better funding, and receive public acclaim for work that is inferior to his own. The drain of resentment. This disconnect between actual value and perceived recognition creates a toxic internal state. The Sigma begins to resent the system, his colleagues, and the world at large for its blindness. This resentment is a poison that contained his work, his relationships, and his own sense of self-worth. It is a direct result of a passive strategy in a world that requires active participation in defining one's own value. The squandering of impact. Great ideas and brilliant solutions that remain confined to the Sigma's desk or workshop have zero impact on the world. The potential for influence, for leading change, for leaving a mark, is squandered because the crucial final step, communication, is neglected. The correction, reframing self-promotion, the calm articulation of value. The sovereign Sigma must undergo a fundamental reframing of what self-promotion means. It is not about becoming a boastful, attention-seeking alpha. It is not about seeking external validation for his self-worth. For the Sigma, self-promotion is redefined as a calm, factual, and strategic articulation of value. It is a professional obligation, a necessary step to ensure that his work translates into tangible outcomes. Mistake 4. The pressure cooker of stoicism, emotional bottlenecking, and the sudden eruption. The strength and the trap of stoic composure. The SigmaMale stoicism is one of his most defining and powerful characteristics. He maintains composure under pressure. He thinks clearly in a crisis, and he is not swayed by the emotional hysterics of those around him. This emotional self-control is a formidable asset, allowing him to be a pillar of stability in chaotic situations. However, this strength is a double-edged sword. The very mechanism that allows him to suppress and control his emotions in the moment can become a dangerous trap if it is the only tool in his emotional toolkit. The Sigma often falls into the habit of emotional bottlenecking. He processes all stress, frustration, anger, and disappointment internally, viewing these emotions as signs of weakness, as irrational intrusions to be mastered and silenced. He provides no release valve, believing that true strength is to endure the mounting pressure indefinitely. He dismisses his own humanity in the pursuit of an idealized, robotic invulnerability. The catastrophic failure modes of suppression. The human psyche and body are not designed to operate as a sealed pressure cooker. The energy of suppressed emotion does not simply disappear. It seeks an outlet, and when it finds one, the release is often disproportionate and destructive. The disproportionate eruption. This is a classic Sigma snap. After months or years of silently enduring provocation, injustices, and stresses, a seemingly minor event, a misplaced comment, a small inconvenience, becomes a trigger for a volcanic, explosive outburst. This eruption is so shocking and intense because it is not a reaction to the small trigger, but a release of the entire accumulated backlog of suppressed emotion. The consequences can be devastating. Long-term relationships can be severed in a single, furious moment. A career built on a reputation of cool composure can be destroyed. Years of built-up trust and respect can evaporate in an instant. The somatic betrayal, psychosomatic illness. If the eruption is suppressed even further, the energy of the emotion is forced inward, where it manifests as physical disease. The body keeps the score. Chronic stress becomes hypertension, ulcers, and cardiovascular issues. Suppressed anger and frustration can manifest as chronic fatigue, tension headaches, and a compromised immune system. The Sigma who believes he is mastering his emotions by ignoring them may find himself master of nothing, laid low by a body that is screaming what he refuses to feel or express. The slow burn of cynicism and apathy. When emotions are consistently bottled up without release, they can curdle into a permanent state of cynical detachment, joylessness, and apathy. The Sigma loses his passion, his motivation, and his connection to the things that once mattered. The world becomes a gray, mechanical place, and he becomes a ghost within it, going through the motions without any genuine feeling. The correction: scheduled emotional maintenance, engineering a pressure release system. The sovereign Sigma does not abandon his stoicism. He fortifies it with wisdom. He understands that stoicism is not the suppression of emotion, but the mastery of it. Mastery requires a system for processing and releasing emotional energy in a healthy, controlled, and consistent manner. He treats his emotional well-being with the same systematic approach he would apply to maintaining a high-performance engine. Mandatory physical catharsis. For the Sigma, who is often more comfortable in the realm of action than in the realm of talk, physical exertion is the most direct and effective pressure release. This is not casual exercise. It is intense, demanding, and ritualistic. It is a non-negotiable practice of transforming psychic tension into physical exhaustion. Mistake 5. The tyranny of pure logic, dismissing the emotional ecosystem, the rationalist's bubble. The Sigma male's mind is often a temple of logic, reason, and objective analysis. He prizes facts, data, and flawless argumentation. He builds his case like a master architect, with every beam of evidence supporting the next, creating an edifice of irrefutable truth. He then presents this perfect logical structure to the world and is genuinely baffled when it is not immediately embraced. He watches as people are swayed by a charismatic speaker with inferior arguments, or when his brilliant proposal is rejected because it made a senior manager feel insecure or threatened. The Sigma's error is a fundamental misreading of human nature. He operates as if he is in a debate club of purely rational actors. In reality, he is in a room full of emotional, ego-driven, and often irrational human beings. He dismisses emotion as a contaminant in the pure water of logic, failing to understand that for the vast majority of people, emotion is not the contaminant. It is the water itself. It is the medium through which all ideas must swim to reach the island of acceptance. The cost of speaking only in data. This over-reliance on logic and dismissal of emotion carries a significant strategic cost. Lost influence and failed proposals. The Sigma's logically perfect plans are consistently rejected, not on their merits, but because he failed to manage the human ecosystem in which the plan would exist. He did not address the unspoken fear of change, the threat to someone's turf, the blow to collective ego, or the simple desire for credit and recognition. His proposal solves a business problem perfectly, but fails to solve the human problem, and is therefore dead on arrival, the cold and robotic label. Because he communicates only in data and logic, the Sigma is often perceived as cold, detached, and out of touch. This perception makes it incredibly difficult for him to inspire, motivate, or lead others when the situation demands it. People do not follow a spreadsheet. They follow a person who understands their hopes and fears. His inability to connect on a human level creates a glass ceiling for his leadership potential. Ineffective negotiation. In any negotiation, from a salary discussion to a business deal, understanding the other party's emotional drivers, their fears, their desires, their pride, is as important as understanding the factual terms. The Sigma who only argues the numbers will leave value on the table and may even sour the relationship, while a more emotionally intelligent negotiator secures a better outcome by making the other party feel good about the agreement. Mistake 6. The neglect of the digital shadow. Failing to curate a personal brand. The fallacy of what people think doesn't matter. The Sigma male's internal locus of control is so strong that he often extends it to a wholesale dismissal of public perception. His mantra is, "What other people think of me is none of my business." While this is a psychologically healthy attitude toward the random opinions of strangers, when applied as a blanket strategy to one's professional reputation, it becomes a critical blind spot. In the 21st century, your reputation is not just a social concept. It is a tangible asset. And in the digital age, your online presence, or lack thereof, forms a significant part of that asset. The Sigma believes that his work and character will speak for themselves, and that any intelligent person will see his value upon direct interaction. He fails to recognize that in a globalized digital economy, the first impression is almost always made online. Before a potential client, employer, or collaborator ever meets you, they will Google you. Your digital footprint is your new handshake, your new suit, your new opening statement. The perils of a digital vacuum or misinterpreted presence. By completely neglecting his online presence, the Sigma creates two major strategic vulnerabilities. The blank slate problem, a complete absence of a digital footprint, is no longer neutral. To a recruiter or a potential business partner, a blank first page of Google results can be interpreted in a number of damaging ways. That you are unaccomplished, that you are technologically literate, that you have something to hide, or that you are simply not a serious player in your field. In a competitive environment, a blank slate is often a liability. The narrative controlled by others. If you do not curate your own narrative, you leave a vacuum that will be filled by others. A disgruntled former associate, a competitor, or simply someone with the same name who has a negative digital presence can define you by default. Without a curated presence to counter that narrative, you are forced into a defensive position, trying to explain and correct a perception that has already been formed. Mistake 7. The lone wolf financial blind spot. The overconfidence in self-guided finance. The illusion of financial autonomy. The Sigma's desire for independence naturally extends his finances. He trusts his own research and analytical skills, and often believes that he can outsmart the complex, often irrational, financial markets. He may dive deep into investing, cryptocurrency, or complex tax strategies on his own, convinced that his intelligence and discipline are sufficient to navigate these treacherous waters. This is a domain where the Sigma's confidence can most directly lead to catastrophic, irreversible loss. Financial systems are not purely logical systems. They are complex adaptive systems, driven by global macroeconomic forces, central bank policies, mass psychology, and black swan events, factors that no individual, no matter how smart, can consistently predict. The Sigma's lone wolf approach to finance represents a profound overconfidence in his own knowledge and a dangerous underestimation of the field's complexity and specialization. The specter of irreversible loss. The potential downsides of this blind spot are severe and can destroy the very autonomy the Sigma seeks to protect. Catastrophic loss of capital. A single miscalculation, a poorly understood investment vehicle, a missed regulatory detail, or an emotional reaction to a market downturn can lead to a wipeout of savings that took years to accumulate. The stories are legion. The brilliant programmer who lost everything on a margin call, the savvy entrepreneur who put his life's savings into a single, misunderstood asset class. The high cost of tax errors. The tax code is a Byzantine creation of political compromise, not logic. Misinterpreting it can lead to massive penalties, interest charges, and audits that create years of stress and financial drain. What seems like a clever tax-saving strategy to a layperson can be a red flag for the IRS. Missed opportunities through lack of diversification. The self-guided investor often suffers from a lack of diversified knowledge. He may become an expert in one area, e.g. tech stocks, but remain ignorant of others, e.g. real estate, bonds, international markets, leading to an unbalanced portfolio that is vulnerable to sector-specific downturns. He misses out on the stability and growth that a diversified strategy, designed by a professional, can provide. Mistake 8. The peril of the single point of failure. Failing to plan for contingencies. The trap of tunnel vision focus. The Sigma male's ability to hyperfocus is legendary. When he sets his mind on a goal, he can pour all of his resources, energy, and time into a single venture, a single business, or a single path with an intensity that few can match. This focused dedication is often the engine of his great successes. However, this very strength contains a profound vulnerability. It can create catastrophic tunnel vision. He becomes so invested in his one primary pillar, his A plan, that he fails to consider what happens if that pillar collapses. What if the market for his product disappears? What if a new technology makes a skill obsolete? What if a personal health crisis prevents him from working? The Sigma who has poured everything into a single point of failure has no backup. When that one pillar breaks, his entire structure, his income, his identity, his autonomy comes crashing down. This can lead to a desperate loss of freedom, forcing him into jobs or situations he would never otherwise tolerate, simply to survive. The architecture of fragility versus the architecture of resilience. A system with a single point of failure is inherently fragile. The sovereign Sigma understands that true independence is not about having one strong leg to stand on, but about having multiple legs so that if one is injured, you can still stand firm. This is a principle of redundancy applied to one's life. Conclusion: from rebel to sovereign. Avoiding these 8 mistakes is not an invitation to conform or to dilute the powerful, unique essence of the Sigma male. It is the exact opposite. It is a call to sharpen that essence, to refine it from a raw, reactive state into a polished, proactive force. It is the difference between being a rebel without a cause and a strategic sovereign. The rebel defines himself by what he is against. He is against the system, against collaboration, against politics, against emotion. His identity is one of opposition, which is ultimately a form of dependency. He needs a system to rebel against. When the system changes, the rebel loses his purpose. The strategic sovereign, however, defines himself by what he is for. He is for his own mission, his own values, his own legacy. He is not against the system. He understands the system so thoroughly that he can navigate it, use its rules to his advantage, or create his own system entirely. He does not refuse to build alliances out of defiance. He carefully curates a council out of strategic wisdom. He does not refuse to self-promote out of pride. He articulates his value out of necessity. He does not suppress his emotions out of fear or weakness. He masters them through systematic release. This journey is about building a legacy that lasts, not just making a point that fades. It is about transforming the innate power of the Sigma male from a scattered, vulnerable potential into a concentrated, unassailable sovereignty. It is about ensuring that the quiet power you cultivate within is translated into a lasting, tangible impact on the world, entirely on your own terms. Do these ideas resonate with you? If you found yourself nodding along or reflecting deeply on the traits and experiences we explored in this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The Sigma male mindset isn't often talked about openly, and your perspective, whether you identify with it personally or have encountered in others, adds valuable depth to the conversation. Drop a comment below and let me know which part hit home the most for you. Have you seen these traits in yourself or someone you know? Your insights help build a community where authenticity and growth are prioritized over popularity and performance. If you're drawn to this kind of introspective, no-nonsense content around Sigma males, psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and high-value living, there's more waiting for you. Explore the other videos on this channel for deeper dives, actionable insights, and raw truths that cut through the noise. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay unapologetically real. Until next time.